Hello, today we're going to talk about some important dates in the history of money, particularly the US dollar. In 1913, the Federal Reserve was created. It was pushed through at the last minute on December 23rd of 1913. Any wonder that shortly after that, in 1914, the IRS, or the Income Tax Act, was brought into being as well. After that, we have 1933. Executive Order 6102 by FDR confiscated gold from all Americans. Yes, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, gold was confiscated from Americans. It was illegal from that point forward to own gold. 1944, after World War II, Bretton Woods. What is this? This was where 44 nations came together to figure out what the money system would be after World War II. And this was in Bretton Woods, Connecticut. Out of this came the creation of the IMF. So that took us, everyone would peg their money, all the nations would peg their money to the dollar, and the dollar was pegged to gold. So should be good. If someone wanted to, or a nation wanted to exchange the dollars that they had, they could exchange them for gold, and it was supposed to be an open system. Fast forward another 30 or so years, 1971. We've got the end of the gold era, the end of the gold standard. President Nixon shut down the gold window. I think he said something to the effect of to get protection from the gold speculators, when in reality what was probably happening was nations started to see the wars we were having before 1971 and wondering how we were paying for them. We were printing more gold certificates than actual gold that existed in the vaults. And nations started to call that gold back to their homes, so there was a huge outflow of gold from the United States because they didn't want to hold green pieces of paper called dollars at that point. So if you look at the website WTF 1971, there's many, and I'll try to include a link in the description. There's a lot of like inflection points that are just a huge eyebrow raisers of like if you were an alien looking at what had happened in 1971 or looking at statistics or data, all of a sudden you see this inflection point at 1971 and one would ask, what happened on that day? So or on that year. So 1971, I believe it was in July, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. We reneged on our deal that we had with the other nations. And yeah, we, in one sense, I'm surprised there wasn't another war over it, because the whole, give me your gold, I think France parked the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier of theirs outside of New York City in protest. So now the money printer could get really, really turned on. Nations were off the gold standard. It would be argued that 1933 kind of individuals got taken off the gold standard. It was illegal to own gold in the United States. So 1971, the printing press could really turn on, and you can do your history, see all the wars that happened even after 1971. I just like to focus on there's more and more bailouts happening along the way. And I'm no history buff when it comes to, Wall Street. I know there's some stuff in the 80s that happened, the 90s, you got the dot-com bubble in 2005. And I was, this was either I was a small child or not even in existence when a lot of these things had happened. And, so I would have to personally dig deeper into history. But nonetheless, there were bailouts occurring, and the first one that comes to my memory and is in a lot of our minds in recent memory is the 2008-09 bailout of Wall Street, if you remember the protests back then. And the banks got bailed out. They didn't have to suffer the consequences of their poor decisions. In my opinion, they should have failed. It might have taken the whole system down, but that's what should have happened. It would have been, short-term pain and very acute pain, but a long-term gain if we could have come out of that on the right side of things. Maybe in a sense, it was good that kind of things happened the way they did, because Satoshi Nakamoto, if you read the white paper, and don't even think I understand the white paper completely, all the complexities with that, with cryptocurrency or cryptography. But out of that came Bitcoin. So, and Bitcoin was the creation of it was created due to the creation or simple creation of government money. We needed a money that was unconfiscatable, that was couldn't be created out of thin air. It was a hard asset that wasn't. It was, it's even more hard than gold, because gold gets printed, right? They can mine more gold, but Bitcoin can't. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin at the end of the day. What a genius move, if it was going to work, right? Well, that was 2009, was when the first Bitcoin block was mined in 2009. So we've got a 13-year history, not anything compared to the 13,000 year history, or 3 to 5,000 year history of gold. But oh my goodness, look at the adoption of Bitcoin. It goes from worth 0 to 30,000. I think, today's April 1st, 2022. And I think we're in the, 46,000, 47,000 price range today. And it's shot up in the past few months, clear up at 68, 69,000. It goes back to 29,000. Yeah, it's volatile, but it went from nothing to this in 13 years, and why couldn't someone create something an asset so hard that has all the qualities of gold, and then fixes all the qualities gold doesn't have, like easily transferable, easily identifiable. If I give you gold, do you really know it's gold, and it's not just lead that's painted gold? That's called salability across space and time. How easy is it to sell gold if you're going to sell it to someone across time? Well, probably pretty easy, but how easy is it to sell across space? Well, you got to get it from A to B, and that could be down the street, or that could be across the globe, and then you got to assay the gold to see if it really is gold. All of that is taken care of by Bitcoin, at the speed of light. So one could argue that, in a sense, Bitcoin has kind of that same history of gold, but it builds off of that and adds even more qualities that are good for humanity, and that make it a hard money. And if you don't like Bitcoin, you don't have to buy it. That's the great thing. If you don't like something, don't buy it. Go back to dollars or go back to gold. I personally am a Bitcoiner through and through, but anyway, this video today is about important dates in monetary history. So that's 2009, Bitcoin's created. 2020, the COVID pandemic, that unleashed an insane amount of government printing. Within the 2 years after that, it's been said, I think like 45% of the total existing money supply before that has been printed. In my book, that is a 45% inflation rate, and it just takes a while to percolate throughout the economy. We certainly are feeling it now, and in many prices, food, fuel, you name it, everything's going up. So now 2021, 2022, the printing continues. There's a law. It's called the Law of Continuing Issuance and Depreciation, where the government prints money to solve a certain set of problems, which they did, in a lot of history, but in recent history for the pandemic. And then they got to print more money to solve the problems that last round of printing caused. But it gets in this vicious cycle where we are depreciating the money to fix previous problems, and it could lead to hyperinflation, meaning I know there's 50% is considered hyperinflation, whatever. My personal opinion is that suddenly nobody wants to take the dollars I'm holding. That's hyperinflation. Or it just takes an insane amount, like a wheelbarrow full, to buy anything, which we're kind of there in a sense, depending on, how you view things. The last date that just happened is February of 2022. So just, about a month ago or 2 months ago. the U.S. weaponized the SWIFT system against Russia. So what is SWIFT? SWIFT is kind of like a bank of international settlement, or that's basically controlled by the U.S. And it basically, if you transact in dollars, which the dollar is the world reserve currency, so people want everything in dollars, gold, oil, you name it. It goes through the SWIFT system. So the U.S. basically took Russia off the SWIFT system. It would be the equivalent of you getting your bank account turned off. Like suddenly your credit cards don't work. Suddenly, or you go down to your bank to make a withdrawal and they say, sorry, you don't have access to this. So why is this so important? Well, yes, we've done this to other nations before, but now we're doing it to a pretty big nation, Russia, and one would argue that Putin saw this coming from many years ago and has made preparations. He's been buying gold, been a net buyer of gold for years now. So he's probably prepared for this very well. It feels like he's running circles around us, to be honest. But what has been exposed with all of this, whether we like it or not, is that the system got weaponized, meaning we're gonna shut off your bank accounts for your entire country, and holy cow, that's a big deal. So other countries that operate on the SWIFT system, which it's many countries, and I'm sure there's many that wanted on it if they weren't. Suddenly they see this happening and they, what are they thinking to themselves? This could happen to me too. I need to de-dollarize. I need to start getting rid of my dollars and have a plan B. So I think this date we'll look back in history and say, yeah, that the day we did that to Russia is the day that people started saying, or nations started saying, hey, we need to de-dollarize. We need to get off of the dollar. We need to figure out something else, which, one would argue this is a great segue into gold. This is a great segue into Bitcoin, into harder money. So now coming into the future, there's probably going to be a fight for some hard assets. And yeah, some assets might be gold or oil or wheat. Commodities might be monetized, meaning people will start to store their value in commodities, which will drive up the price. If everyone stores their value in oil, it's going to drive up the price of oil. If everyone stores their value or their wealth into real estate, it drives up the price of real estate. We can see this happening in front of us right now. And wouldn't it be great if there was just something out there, its sole thing was to be money and to transfer wealth into it, and you could own an infinitesimally small part of it, almost, as it were, that everyone could get a piece of it. Well, that's Bitcoin. If everyone runs to Bitcoin, yeah, it'll drive the price up, but you can still own some Bitcoin. So that's, again, important dates throughout history. One would argue recent history, within the last little over 100 years. But these dates are, if you understand them, it will probably make you do a study of, well, where should I store my wealth? Should I put a portion of my wealth in Bitcoin or in gold or in oil or in real estate? You probably want to get out of the dollar, even if you're an American. But that's enough for today. Please like and subscribe. Leave comments, ask questions. Definitely available to have a conversation with someone if you think you're a Bitcoin nobody. Appreciate anything you can throw my way as far as that's concerned. Thank you.